The pen trembled in Natalie's hand as she pressed it against the cold paper, her tears falling silently onto the document that would erase 7 years of her life in a single signature. Around her, the Christmas lights blinked cheerfully, laughter filled the warm room, and glasses clinked in celebration. But no one at that holiday gathering understood that the quiet woman hunched over the table was not simply signing away a marriage. She was signing away the last piece of herself she had allowed anyone to touch. And not one person in that room. Not her soon-to-be ex-husband Marcus. Not his gleaming new girlfriend draped in red like a victory flag. Not the smiling family members who had never truly accepted Natalie. Knew that the woman they had dismissed, humiliated, and discarded was the sole heir to the Whitmore fortune, one of the oldest and most powerful family legacies in the entire United States. Before we go any further into Natalie's story, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that God has a way of turning the tables on those who underestimate the quiet ones, please take a moment right now to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to this channel. Your support means everything, and this story is for every person who has ever felt invisible in a room full of people who should have loved them. Natalie Whitmore had spent the last 7 years of her life becoming invisible on purpose. When she had first met Marcus Calloway at a small art gallery in Chicago, she had been deliberately living below her means, renting a modest apartment in Wicker Park, driving a second-hand Honda, and working as a graphic designer at a mid-sized agency. It was something her late father, Richard Whitmore, had insisted upon before she inherited anything. He had wanted her to understand the world without the cushion of billions beneath her feet. He had wanted her to know who loved her for her heart, not her name. And so Natalie had gone out into the world stripped of every material advantage, and she had believed, with a faith that now felt almost naive, that Marcus had chosen her for exactly who she was. For the first 2 years, she had no reason to doubt it. Marcus was charming and warm, a contractor who built beautiful things with his hands, and Natalie had loved the simplicity of their life together. She had cooked dinners in their small kitchen, attended his family's Sunday gatherings with a humble smile, and swallowed the quiet sting every time his mother, Gloria Calloway, made some offhand comment about Natalie's plain clothes or her unremarkable salary. She told herself it didn't matter. She told herself love was enough. But love, she would learn, is never enough when only one person is truly giving it. The unraveling began slowly, the way all heartbreak does, not with a single earthquake, but with 100 tiny fractures. Marcus started coming home later. He stopped reaching for her hand in church. He began mentioning a woman named Serena from his new construction project with just a little too much familiarity, a warmth in his voice that had long since disappeared when he spoke to Natalie. When she raised her concerns, he told her she was insecure, that she was suffocating him, that she had never truly understood the pressure he was under. And because Natalie had spent years training herself to question her own worth, she believed him. She apologized. She shrank. She made herself even smaller to fit inside the shrinking space he was willing to give her. By the time the third Christmas of their marriage arrived, Natalie had stopped painting, something she had loved deeply since childhood. By the fourth, she had stopped calling her closest friend, Rebecca, because Marcus found Rebecca too opinionated. By the 5th year, Natalie barely recognized herself in the mirror. She was a ghost living inside a marriage, and the man who was supposed to see her had chosen, deliberately and daily, not to look. The divorce papers had been Marcus's idea, delivered not in private, not with any shred of dignity, but at his family's annual Christmas gathering in their home in suburban Naperville, Illinois. He had slid them across the table in front of his parents, his siblings, and Serena, who stood behind his chair with her hand resting on his shoulder as though she had already moved in and redecorated. The message was not subtle. It was a performance of power, a public humiliation designed to make Natalie feel that she was nothing, that she had never been anything, and that the world would watch her disappear without blinking. And so Natalie had sat there, in her simple gray sweater, surrounded by people who had never valued her, and she had picked up that pen with shaking fingers. The tears that fell were real. The grief was real. 7 years of her life were real, and no signature, however legally binding, could make that pain clean or simple. She cried not because she wanted Marcus back, Somewhere deep in the truest part of herself, she already knew she had been slowly dying in that marriage. She cried because she had given so much of herself to someone who had treated her like a temporary arrangement. She cried because she was 34 years old, and she had spent the best years of her heart in a room where no one had ever truly seen her. What no one in that house knew, what Marcus and Gloria and Serena and every smirking face in that Christmas-lit living room did not know, was that 3 weeks earlier, Natalie had received a call from her family's estate attorney, a man named Theodore Haynes, informing her that the final conditions of her father's will had been met. Richard Whitmore had passed 2 years prior, leaving behind a meticulous legal structure designed to ensure his daughter was ready. The inheritance, a combination of real estate holdings, international investments, private equity stakes, and the flagship Whitmore Foundation, was valued at just over $4 billion. And it now belonged entirely to Natalie. She had told no one. Not Marcus. Not Gloria. Not a single person in that room. She signed the papers. She capped the pen. She stood up from the table, dried her face with the back of her hand, and walked to the door. Marcus called after her with an air of casual dismissal, something about making sure she returned the key to the mailbox, as though she were a tenant and not a woman who had loved him with her whole soul. She did not answer. She did not